At nighttime, in the general's palace, someone hoped they could ensure his safety on his way back from the general's palace. There was a small carriage with 2 horses attached to it and several guards near it. Later that night, 2 people went inside the examinee's residence. Inside a room, Captain New was informed by Liu Aji that the doctor was there. Cheng Dalei was relieved that it was a good thing the doctor didn't bring any medicine with him. He had been drinking so much ginseng and tiger bone soup that he almost vomited at the smell of it. The doctor replied that his injuries had already closed, and he should be able to move around after a few more days. Cheng Dalei said that he was not the doctor who had been treating him for the past few days and asked if he was new here and his surname. The doctor answered him yes, and his surname was Lai. He was amazed that he had the same surname as the royal family. The doctor looked sharply at his companion, Liu Aji. Liu Aji said to Niu Sanjin that he would get some fresh air outside and remember to listen to the doctor's instructions. The doctor said the situation back then was very dangerous, and while what he did was selfless, wasn't he afraid of dying? Cheng Dalei scratched his head and asked what he had to do with him. The doctor awkwardly replied that he was just asking. He heard General Niu was from the northwest and asked if the situation over there was okay. Cheng Dalei sighed as he asked what was okay about it, as he couldn't even have a full meal every day. It was already not bad to be able to survive. The doctor sadly remarked that it was that bad. Then he proceeded to ask Captain Niu why did he think they were unable to triumph over the Ring tribe, on which Cheng Dalei questioned why was he asking him and he could go ask the emperor. That old Foji. The doctor felt sad and silent. Cheng Dalei thought in his head that this conversation, this look, he wondered why they looked so familiar. And the look this doctor gave Liu Aji earlier. Based on his identity, he wondered why would Liu Aji listen to a doctor. He was someone who stood below 1 but above 10,000. The only person Liu Aji would listen to was the emperor, and this person's surname was also Lai. Cheng Dalei quickly realized that there was no way Lai Xingzai, who liked to dress as a commoner, and Lai Wanner, who liked to cross-dress as a man, could be the emperor. He couldn't believe that this old Foji in front of him was the emperor. Cheng Dalei looked terrified and cursed himself that the apple really didn't fall too far from the tree, questioning that his ancestors were all cosplayers too. The panic set into Cheng Dalei as he sweated heavily and wondered if he was too rude a while ago. He comforted himself that it was okay, didn't panic, just pretended like he didn't recognize him. However, the emperor uttered the old Foji, which made Cheng Dalei terrified and silent. Cheng Dalei responded confidently that he was right, they all called him that. On which Emperor Ming questioned that all called him that. Cheng Dalei explained that he was blessed to live 10,000 years, hence old, and with age came wisdom, hence Foji. Using such a prestigious title to call the emperor, he then questioned if there was something wrong, on which the emperor replied that it was like that. The emperor asked why he was sweating so much and if he wasn't feeling well somewhere, and Cheng Dalei replied that it was a little hot. The emperor placed his hand inside his clothes and said that he played a huge role in saving the old Foji, and he was sure he would give him a huge reward. He got a piece of cloth, then wiped Cheng Dalei's face with it. The emperor called himself an old Foji since he said everyone called him that. Cheng Dalei panicked inside as he thought in his head that the emperor was actually helping him wipe his sweat and hoped he didn't accidentally wipe his beard off while he awkwardly laughed with him. The emperor said that this time he would definitely be promoted to a noble, but he wondered if there was any other reward he wanted. Cheng Dalei replied that sacrificing his body for the emperor was something a loyal subject must do. If he was talking about a reward, what else could be more rewarding than being able to protect the emperor? Then he responded that it seemed like he wasn't interested in a reward. Cheng Dalei added that not only that he wasn't interested, he wanted the emperor to send him to the most dangerous battlefields, the harshest and the most brutal places. He went on to say that as a soldier, to die on the battlefield, using his own blood to trade for the safety of the empire. That was the greatest reward, on which the emperor was speechless. He did not expect him to be so loyal, and Cheng Dalei replied that this wasn't enough to be called loyal. This was the duty of a soldier. Liu Aji was outside the room on guard and heard them laughing. There was a light near the emperor. The emperor asked if the battles in the northeast were not easy, right? Cheng Dalei was silent for a moment, before replying that yes, it was not easy at all. The emperor said that they were defeated many times. The huge empire couldn't even stop a group of barbarians. Then, he questioned what he thought the reason for their defeat was. Cheng Dalei responded that the Ring lived in a grassy landscape. Although their population was limited, and they lacked iron, their habits made them good at riding and shooting. So, every man became a soldier, and they could replenish their troops quickly. While the empire built up the country through agriculture and self-sufficiency, the training time for a single soldier was long. The soldiers easily became the private property of the generals, and they were prone to civil wars, or they avoided war with the outside world to preserve their strength. Even if he could successfully destroy a group of the rings, in a few years a new group of warriors grew up, changing at most the clan's name. Meanwhile, it was much more difficult for the soldiers of the Great Kingdom who died to regenerate. Even if the Empire defeated the rings 100 times, this could not hurt the rings' ambition. The Empire only had to lose once to be broken. They couldn't attack, so they had to defend the cities. But a long defensive line from east to west was a big loss of national strength. So, the defense got weaker every time. The emperor found it meaningful when he said that the defense got weaker every time. Cheng Dalei proposed a solution. If he trained an elite army to beat their strategy of perpetual wars so they could directly wipe out the cause, the Ring tribe would be completely crushed. On which the emperor replied that the empire didn't have such an elite army and couldn't afford to support such an attack in the north. Cheng Dalei added that he had active but also passive strategies. He was just afraid to say it. The emperor encouraged him to talk about it because he happened not to have a consultant next to him, so he could just talk about it. Cheng Dalei explained that this method was a bit crazy. He could create an opening in the northwest of the country to attract the rings and use the complex landscape of the empire as a battlefield. Then, he mobilized millions of the empire's peoples and the entire population to resist the rings, then blocked the enemy's retreat and destroyed them by encircling the place and gradually engulfing the invading rings like a sea that greatly damped their ambition. The emperor questioned blocking the enemy's retreat and then destroying them. Did he mean that at the cost of millions of lives, they should lure the rings into the country voluntarily and even give up Chang'an? Cheng Dalei explained that he wasn't trying to send them to their deaths, but to involve millions of civilians in resisting the enemy so that the weak could overcome and break the strong. The emperor strongly responded no, because that was crazy and downright cruel. Besides, he questioned whether these useless straw-like civilians really had the guts to fight the rings, because that was completely fantasizing. Cheng Dalei replied that he didn't have another plan if he didn't believe him. The emperor was silent for a moment. He then said that he was stronger than he thought, and he didn't think the old guy, Emperor Ming, would rank him that low again. The emperor said that he had one more question, and Cheng Dalei replied to go ahead. The Ring clan ravaged the lands, the royal power mourned the fall, the fluorescent fire guarded the hearts. At that time, the nobility and the rich families fought for power, and the vassals defied the law. If people had a disease, they could be cured by medicine. But what if the state was sick? He then asked if he thought the empire could be still saved. Cheng Dalei wondered in his head that this kind of question a doctor and patient should talk about, and he was certain that Emperor Ming already knew that he had found out his identity. Emperor Ming gazed sharply. Cheng Dalei thought in his head that this old man really knew everything. With what he learned in his last life, unfortunately, in situations like this, he could only break old habits and reform himself. He questioned even daring to say his answer to the emperor's face, whether he could understand it or not. Even if he did, Cheng Dalei was afraid he would cut his head off right away. He was the leader of this old empire, should he overthrow the emperor himself. At that moment, the two eyes collided and the heart became similar like a clear mirror. Cheng Dalei breathed heavily. He said it was hopeless as he laid his back. The emperor was speechless. Then he turned his back and made his way to the door, and left Cheng Dalei in the room. Cheng Dalei looked at him, and a trace of pity suddenly rose in his heart. Of course, this was a very ridiculous thing, but at that moment Cheng Dalei really felt sorry for him. Liu Aji offered to let him help His Majesty onto the carriage, and he replied no because he wanted to take a walk. Liu Aji asked if he did say something that upset him. Emperor Ming replied no. He said it quite well and was right in some places. Liu Aji went on asking if His Majesty thought this person was useful, and if he was good for nothing, should they kick him out of Chang'an and send him back to his homeland? Emperor Ming responded that he was useful, not only useful but also of great benefit to them. Somewhere in the palace at midnight, someone walked, and the brothers were lurking behind a wall. Guan Yu said that this guy didn't look like anything special. Zhang Fei questioned if someone really murdered an ordinary royal doctor. And Liu Bei added that given Tong Fei's behavior in recent days in the capital, she was by no means a minor figure in the capital. She specifically asked them to secretly accompany this person, so that must have been her intention. However, Liu Bei thought in his head that the three of them were just guests in her house, but she specifically dismissed her most trusted Zhao Zilong and instead asked them, who were relatively strangers, to do the job. Liu Bei thought that in any case, it was fraud. He wondered how many people beside them were hiding in this seemingly quiet night. Swords were drawn, and they called the quack physician, and they finally got him. Several people dressed in black and carrying swords ran towards the doctor with masks covering their faces, and they continued demanding to give their son's, wife, and dog's life. Zhang Fei was surprised that someone really came to assassinate. The people dressed in black went on running with the intent to kill this quack physician. The three brothers came to the defense and surrounded the doctor. Guan Yu questioned if there were so many people. He felt it was way too exaggerated. It was not an assassination, it was clearly a siege. Zhang Fei replied that in the capital, he had either eaten or slept these past days. Now he finally had a place where his body's strength could fully express itself, while Liu Bei remained silent. Zhang Fei enthusiastically asked his brother why they didn't have a contest to see who could beat more people. Whoever lost would take over the other person's drink money for a year. Guan Yu questioned if he realized the current situation they were in, while Liu Bei thought in his head that the quack physician did not panic at all when it was so dangerous. Guan Yu and Zhang Fei went on fighting, while Liu Bei was tasked to protect the doctor and leave the rest to his brothers. On the roof, someone observed the fight and chuckled because they really saw it in them. A lady dressed in black said, "Let the useless withdraw," and let Team Tiger continue, and a man behind her agreed. Several people dressed in black carried swords and screamed, "Attack!" Zhang Fei ran and questioned how it was that the more they fought, the more opponents there were, and how many enemies this old man had made. Guan Yu struggled and said that the opponents were getting stronger and stronger, just like Zhang Fei, who told his brother there was another wave of enemies approaching from over there, while a horde of people carrying swords ran after them. A sword swung in the air, and this time, it hit Liu Bei in the face, and blood began to splatter. Guan Yu and Zhang Fei were terrified for their big brother, Liu Bei. Liu Bei remained calm and cursed in his head. He went on thinking that it wouldn't work, it was a trap. If they continued, it was only a matter of time before they got killed. 1 year ago, bandits trained at the training ground of Toad Village. Liu Bei observed silently their smoky fight. He stood there with Cheng Dalei beside him. The rigid training bandits were Zhang Fei, Guan Yu, Qin Man, and Zhao Zilong. Someone said stop and the bandits obeyed. Guan Yu and Zhang Fei were visibly bruised, sweaty, and heavily breathed. It was Cheng Dalei, and he said that was it for today's training, and Qin Man replied okay. Liu Bei asked Cheng Dalei what his intention was. He knew that their martial arts were inferior to Zhao Zilong and Qin Man, but he still deliberately asked them to fight each other. Cheng Dalei asked how many moves he thought they could have handled before sparring. Liu Bei answered about 10 or so moves. Cheng Dalei responded that they had fought for more than 30 moves to determine a winner, and Liu Bei replied that this was because while they both were very strong, their fighting styles were completely different. He went on to explain that Qin Man could perform war-killing techniques, Zhao Zilong could execute professional fighting techniques, and the two had no cooperation. Cheng Dalei asked what he thought the problem with Guan Yu and Zhang Fei was. Liu Bei answered that they had fought with too much brute force, did not know how to observe, ignored details, and had no strategy either. Cheng Dalei said that he was right. What they had lacked in their fighting style was a brain and eyes. He referred to him as Little Bei and mentioned that he had never seen him fight, but he knew his fighting skills weren't bad, even if they were not as good as theirs, but he could be their brains and their eyes. Cheng Dalei added that he was a genius at leading troops, which Liu Bei questioned how he had figured that out. Cheng Dalei told him not to ask because he just knew, and in his eyes, all three of them had the ability to withstand 1,000 armies. Going back to Liu Bei, while being attacked, he knew what to do. He called Guan Yu and Zhang Fei to listen to his command, follow his steps to retreat, on which his brothers agreed. Liu Bei thought in his head that there were 3 in the northwest, 4 in the northeast, and 6 in the south. He found it, the weak point of the encirclement. Liu Bei fiercely commanded to break through them. On the rooftop, a man told his lady boss that they were getting away from them and asked if they should do something, and she replied not to hurry, as they would strike when they thought they had escaped. In this case, they could see how they fought with all their might to survive. Zhang Fei and Guan Yu mowed down their enemies. Anxious, Liu Bei pondered who those people were and where the guards were, given that they were fighting for so long and failed to come. Then suddenly, a figure leaped behind their back. Unaware of what was going on, Liu Bei thought that as long as they could break the enemy's encirclement, they would have a chance to escape. Guan Yu was the first one who noticed and warned his brothers to watch out as the figure landed in front of them. A masked woman appeared and grinned at them. Zhang Fei's face distorted, and he told Guan Yu that they were going to attack together, to which Guan Yu agreed. They both slashed the masked woman. However, the woman jumped, dodging both of their attacks. She landed on top of their weapons with ease. The woman hopped up. She kneed Guan Yu in the face. Guan Yu's face was in shock about what happened. Guan Yu was sent flying as a result of the impact of the attack, which concerned Zhang Fei. Zhang Fei ran and yelled at Guan Yu. He attacked the woman with his skill, the Sky Catcher. Struggling, he then thought that the guy's strength was abnormal. The woman was still grinning. Then Zhang Yu released another attack, but it was easily blocked by the woman. The woman prepared her legs for a kick. She then kicked Zhang Fei in the face since he didn't respond quickly enough. Zhang Fei was also thrown and smashed into a wall as a result of the kick. Liu Bei leaped behind the woman, raising both of his swords and preparing to attack. The woman, however, turned back as she observed the approaching Liu Bei, who was going to slash her. She avoided Liu Bei's blade at just the right moment. The woman's spear hilt sparkled as she dragged it to the ground. She used the hilt to bounce as Liu Bei slashed her again. The woman landed behind Liu Bei. However, Liu Bei quickly turned to where she was. She then chuckled as they both readied their stance. The woman then told Liu Bei that she could tell he was a martial artist based on his earlier movements. An open box containing medical supplies was lying on the ground. The woman went on to say that she wouldn't have thought that Liu Bei was a dual sword wielder because he hit it so well. Liu Bei's eyes began to shine as his face was filled with emotions. On a narrow street, the woman invited Liu Bei to come at her because she wanted to know what more he was hiding, while a number of adversaries stood behind them. As they surged at each other, Liu Bei and the woman continued to fight. Their swords collided. Liu Bei's face contorted, yet the woman continued to smile. Zhang Fei, who was knocked out, leaned against the wall, while Guan Yu was also the same. Moments later, Liu Bei sat on the ground, and the woman appeared in front of him, saying that she expected him to be stronger. The woman asked him if he wasn't afraid of dying and why he gave up. Liu Bei sighed as he lay flat on the ground and asked her what difference it made if he died sooner or later. People would die eventually. While the woman's spear was on his throat, he told her she could do her worst since he wouldn't move. He continued that if Zhao Zilong found out that the three of them died in her hands. Liu Bei, concerned that her little game would no longer be enjoyable, addressed the woman as Auntie Tong Fei. The woman removed her mask and cloak and called Liu Bei a stinky kid. Tong Fei grabbed Liu Bei's clothes. She was furious and threatened Liu Bei if he dared to call her an auntie. Tong Fei clenched her teeth and asked Liu Bei if he truly believed she would not kill him right now. Liu Bei didn't answer and just clenched his teeth. Tong Fei grinned, stating that Liu Bei was not bad as she actually saw through him and even lasted that long against her. She complimented him that his martial arts were not bad, and he also had a brain. Tong Fei laughed as she continuously smacked Liu Bei, who began to feel something. Liu Bei's eyes twirled as he lost consciousness. Tong Fei was confused about what just happened. Liu Bei passed out while Tong Fei just stared at him without speaking a word. A man appeared and told Tong Fei that she didn't properly control her strength. Tong Fei placed one of her palms on her forehead, told the man he was talking nonsense, and inquired if he had caught anyone. The man informed her that it was truly surprising that an unknown number of assassins had invaded Chang. As he took off his face, the man also took off his hair and continued that night alone, they had caught a few opportunists. He went on to say that they still had to figure out who they belonged to. The man was also curious as to whether it was Jiang Hu's Moon Song Temple or Ling Zhu Pavilion, or the Blood Assassins. Tong Fei told the man that she wanted a thorough investigation into all of them, and to find out who was the rat in the imperial court, because otherwise, she wondered how they found out about the operation tonight, and she also told him that his acting as the Emperor's double was too rough, and that she would find him an acting teacher later. However, the man laughed, asking her to spare him, as they should worry about the three fellows on the ground first. Tong Fei ordered the Tiger team to bring all injured people to the infirmary, and the three to her palace, and the Tiger team did so. Tong Fei, irritated, stated that with the Merlion guards around, she couldn't imagine how a bunch of riffraff could cause trouble, and it was about time to let them know who Chang'an belonged to. Female attendants gathered outside the palace. Two of the attendants gossiped and told the other to pretend she saw nothing. Princess Mingyu stood tall, smiling. Meanwhile, Emperor Ming was present at the Weiyang Palace study. Princess Mingyu arrived and saw the Emperor reading something. Emperor Ming's gaze shifted to the side, as if he noticed someone. He then inquired of Princess Mingyu why she acted sneakily now that she arrived. Princess Mingyu chuckled as she walked awkwardly toward Emperor Ming. She then looked at what Emperor Ming was reading and asked him what he looked at. Emperor Ming stated that he looked to see if anyone was capable in the exam. As he looked at the paper, Princess Mingyu asked him if anyone was capable. Emperor Ming scoffed and told her that true capable people were few and far between because he didn't know if it made sense or was simply a bunch of cliches. His eyes then turned to Princess Mingyu. Emperor Ming questioned her attire and pondered what would happen if word got out, which spooked Princess Mingyu. Princess Mingyu blushed as she told Emperor Ming that she learned it from him, prompting Emperor Ming to ask her what she meant. She then pointed to him and told him that she saw Emperor Ming and Uncle Liu wearing commoner clothes and sneaking out of the palace earlier. However, Emperor Ming stated that he went out for work and she would not comprehend what the work was. Princess Mingyu insisted that Emperor Ming should tell her why he went out. Emperor Ming disputed this, claiming that the entire empire was his and he could go wherever he wanted to go. Princess Mingyu, on the other hand, still pressured Emperor Ming to tell her why he went out because she wanted him to bring her along the next time. Emperor Ming coughed and told Princess Mingyu that they were not going to talk about it. He immediately changed the subject and asked Princess Mingyu if she had decided on someone to marry yet. Princess Mingyu stuttered and told Emperor Ming that she didn't want to get married yet. Emperor Ming argued that she would have to marry sooner or later, and she would meet someone with whom she wanted to raise a family. Princess Mingyu crossed her arms and told Emperor Ming that she had not met anyone like that yet, and they were not going to talk about it right now. Emperor Ming warned her that she could not wait any longer, and if she waited any longer, she would become an old lady. He stated that he already picked someone for her and asked if she was interested in finding out who it was. Princess Mingyu pouted, believing that if they weren't from the family, they were from the Tao family, and if he forced her, she would starve herself. Emperor Ming, on the other hand, told her that it wasn't either of those two people. The person he chose was good with both the pen and the sword, as he actually stood out among the crowd, and referred to him as a bona fide genius. Princess Mingyu's face was skeptical as she asked Emperor Ming if someone like that existed, and what they looked like. Emperor Ming rubbed his cheeks as he emphasized to her that the man did not appear ugly. Nonetheless, Princess Mingyu remained unconvinced and questioned Emperor Ming what family the man belonged to if he wasn't from the Tao or families, to which Emperor Ming replied that the man's name was Niu and asked what she thought. Princess Mingyu's eyes squinted as she mentioned Niu's name. Distressed, Princess Mingyu asked Emperor Ming if he wasn't talking about that man. After a while, Princess Mingyu entered through the gate, annoyed, wondering where Cheng Dale was. When Xiao Linger recognized her, she told her that Cheng Dale was resting in the yard. She stood near Cheng Dale, who was asleep, with her arms crossed, staring at him angrily and not saying anything. She then slapped him, causing Cheng Dale to scream. Cheng Dale cursed at her, asking Princess Mingyu what was wrong with her. Princess Mingyu asked him what he said to Emperor Ming, which perplexed Cheng Dale because he had never met her father. She then mocked him, wondering what talented genius he was and he should simply go back to his mountain since she didn't know whether he was worthy, to which made Cheng Dale more confused. Princess Mingyu quickly ran and cursed at him and told him that no wonder why he was so interested in her matters because he was just a perverted toad that wanted to eat swan meat. She continued to mock him, telling him that he should never forget that he was just a mountain bandit and would forever be a bandit. She then left, leaving Cheng Dale puzzled about what had just happened. Cheng Dale was thinking about what had just happened when Princess Mingyu came and began hitting and screaming at him, calling him a toad who wanted to eat swan meat, wondering what was wrong with that as it was the motto of his toad village.